What's up guys, Davidonthereg here, and today I'll be showing you guys how to do a manual landing in the Magknight 787. So, let's get to it. So starting it off in the airplane, we're gonna pull our flaps down to around 18 degrees here. And also wait for those to extend themselves here. After the flaps, what we're going to want to do is take our auto brake and set that to maybe around 2 or 3 depending on, or even max depending on how slippery the runways are, runway conditions, and wind conditions. Sometimes I even have it to 3 if I know there's like a crosswind or maybe if there's a wind shear, just in case we don't get to land on the markers, but the winds today aren't too bad, so I've set them to 2. So it looks like our flaps are fully extended now, so that's a good thing. Something else we're going to want to do is go up to the overhead panel and check that the landing lights are down, that the runway turn off lights are down. You also want the strobe lights to be on, as well as all your, the beacon lights, the nav lights, logo light, wing lights, but you don't want the taxi light on. That's not going to come on just about yet. We're going to wait to actually start taxiing to turn that on. And upon flying towards the runway, you want to just keep the runway right in the middle of your screen, and try not to trim the airplane too much. Try to trim it out at first, and then over, in the last, I don't know, 100 nautical miles or maybe 50 nautical miles even, just use the power to actually regulate how fast you're going, or how and just use the power to regulate what your vertical speed is. I usually try to keep it around my vertical speed somewhere around -700 or -600. That's like the really sweet spot. And at 1,000 feet, as we are right now, you also want to make sure that you are stabilized. You're not too far below the glide slope. You're not too far above the glide slope. You actually see the runway. And if you don't see the runway, you're gonna wait until the airplane calls minimums. And at minimums, if you don't see the runway, you should be going around. You don't want to land after minimums without seeing the runway. That's not gonna be good. And planes have actually crashed in the past for not going around. So going around is always a safe thing to do. Practice those, and if you guys want a video on how to do a go around, I'll make one on that as well. At this time, we've also pulled the flaps all the way down, around 30 degrees here. This is a manual landing, so we don't have ILS or we don't have RNVor guiding us in. Auto brake is also set to 2 in gear. So when you're extending the gear, make sure that the gear lever is in the down position, and that you also watch the indicators that are actually on the ECAS screen. So make sure that it gets down, it locks into place. As you can see, the front nose gear is locked into place, and then we have our 2 main landing gears in the back there coming down, and once they're locked into place on the 787, it'll actually show a small box that says down with a green box around it, and then you'll know that that all the landing gears are actually locked into place and that you're ready for the landing. And here you can probably tell that I'm not using the yoke to actually pull it up and down to regulate the vertical speed here, but I'm actually using the engine. So usually on landings, you'll actually hear the engine change in pitches quite a bit, and that's basically just the pilot adding in thrust, taking it away. We're going back up to around 60% here, since we are dropping a little bit faster. It's around 700, and by the looks of how far we are away from the runway, we're gonna need that speed, and we're gonna need that engine thrust to actually get us to the runway, or else we would have just been, gliding down right in front of the runway, or even on the houses or the roads in front of it, which isn't good. You want to land on the runway, on the markers, so that's why we added in a little bit more power to get us there. Always look out of your window in front of you. Don't rely too much on the artificial horizon. Get the plane down on the runway, and also just have a feel of where your power is, and what your altitude is as well, which is nice. At this time, I've already done all the flows, so we know that auto brake is on, we know that the gear is down, also that your speed brake is armed. You just want to throw that into the arm position, but don't worry too much about that. If anything, you just pull it yourself. Upon the last, I don't know, maybe 10 nautical miles, when you're actually focusing on landing the airplane, if something's not down already, like if, I don't know, if auto brake is not set up, if the speed brakes aren't armed, don't worry about it. Just pull it when you're on the ground. You don't want to be fiddling around with those in the air. You don't want to be fiddling around with those at the last second. You just want to focus on the runway. And here we are approaching the runway here. The runway's right in the middle. The runway's right in the middle of our screen, which is perfect. And once we get on the ground, what we want to do is we want to flare a little bit. So pull the airplane up just a little bit, not too far, or else you're going to start dropping out of the sky. But just a little bit, so that you don't overspeed and you don't pass the markers, and that you're also landing it on the back wheels. You don't want to land it on the front wheel, because that's going to literally tear that thing apart. You want to land it on the back wheels, and that way it's a softer landing, and you'll actually see it being demonstrated here. So once we cross the threshold right here, guiding up the airplane right to the center, because there is a wind coming from our right. So there we are, and right over the threshold, we flare it, and we flare it, and we're down. And then I'll also reach over to the reversers. Reversers are opening at this time, as you can see, and just holding that nose through the decel. You don't want to drop that nose down quite yet. Just hold it, keep on holding it up until it gently comes down on the ground, and there it is, lowering, and nose should be on the ground there. There you go. So that was a really nice nose wheel touchdown. For the back wheels, it was a little bit bumpy, but that's all fine. And at 80 knots, you want to just release your reversers there, throw those down, and over to manual braking. The auto brake will automatically come off if you start braking manually, so that's pretty nice. And we also took a high-speed burn off there, which is great. And yeah, so that's pretty much how to land. I'll throw in a few replays if you guys want those, so let's play those replays. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm just going to leave you guys with a few replays right here. In the description, I'll also throw down a small checklist of what I go through, at least in my head, as just memory items for when I land. And if you guys like these landings, also comment down below and leave a like on the video. Maybe I'll do a few like landing compilation videos or something like that, of just a lot of 787 landings in X-Plane, or maybe in real life. I actually have a few clips from plane spotting. That landing was absolutely fantastic. I think we bounced just a little bit, but that's fine. We got it on the ground, and yeah, we're safe now. So I'll leave you guys with a few more replays here. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.
us.